Hello everyone, it's David again. Season 1, Episode 15, called Grail. Again, sadly like the last one, widely panned in the Facebook groups, and so I'm not going to have very much to say on it because, quite frankly, I agree with a lot of them. The writing was the acting was I should say the writing was more like in a lot of it. Starts off with Delenn and Lennier getting Sinclair and Michael Garibaldi to join them, wanting to greet their distinguished guest. And Jinxo flashes on over to a guy named Jinxo, and he gets the name of Jinxo because evidently he has worked on all 5 Babylon 5 stations. He was there 1, 2, and 3. As soon as he took leave, those 3 Babylons blew up. Babylon 4, as soon as he got onto a shuttle to take them off, it just disappeared. And we'll talk a lot about that later. Trust me. And so he has this name Jinxo. In other words, if he gets off of Babylon 5, he and those around him are convinced that bad things are going to happen. It's either going to disappear or explode or who knows what. So he gets cornered by a thug named Deuce, who wants 100,000 credits or the outlines to Babylon 5 because he wants to be able to get around security. Well, the guy who built 5 Babylon stations would certainly know all the ways in and out, the corners and everything that can't be seen or aren't, usually patrolled by security officers. That's why he wants, but Jinxo refuses. And so he says, if you refuse, or if you don't give it, 100,000 credits in 300 cycles, I'm going to feed you to the Vorlon. What? Well, sure enough, there's this lady named Miriam Running Deer who was going to testify against Deuce in court. And all of a sudden, this little thing comes out, latches onto her brain, and sucks her brain dry. And as soon as this thing withdraws its antenna or whatever it is, we see Ambassador Kosh's encounter suit. Huh? Okay. And it does go into why this happens a little bit later. Cue the entrance. So it opens up with a very hilarious or light-hearted scene. A guy is suing this guy in court, and he's in front of an ombudsman for kidnapping his great-great-grandfather and doing experiments on him. And all of a sudden you see in the table next to him is an alien dressed in a costume. You know how everybody who describes an alien or the Roswell episode, these aliens have the, and sure enough, there's one of those little aliens, and he holds up this little cartoon, whatever thing, he's trying to explain to it in his language, and the ombudsman is like, oh, good God, get the translator in here, and why doesn't the other ombudsman get these cases? Why do I have to deal with them? We flip on over to Aldous Geich, who meets up with Delenn, Lennier, Sinclair, and Garibaldi had sort of been drafted into meeting him, and sent him info on a sacred item called the Holy Grail, which is supposed to lead to the regeneration and salvation of humankind. Now, I had researched a little bit on the Holy Grail. I didn't realize that the Grail in the Arthurian legend and the Holy Grail, which is supposed to be the chalice that Jesus of Nazareth drank from during the Last Supper, I didn't realize they were 2 separate things. And they are in some instances. However, over time, they've been brought together and kind of brought together apart. You'll look and you'll see, and there are actually quite a few grails that are around. and there are also some grails that are in collections in museums and other things. Some of them are new grails, some of them are old grails. They have various legends attached to them. I'll let you look that one up because it's actually quite extensive. Compared to the Holy Chalice, I believe the Holy Chalice is the one that Jesus of Nazareth supposedly drank from during the Last Supper, and the Holy Grail is what is referred to in the Arthurian legends. Well, of course, Michael Garibaldi and Sinclair roll their eyes because they're like, this guy's a little bit crazy in the head. And Lennier and Garibaldi are seen as an honored seeker. Delenn says the true seeker is treated and honored even if this Holy Grail doesn't exist. So it's, I guess, the person, not the thing that they're talking about. It also goes a little bit to me, what would come, and people of course talk about this all the time, what would happen if Jesus of Nazareth just showed up like that? Would we even believe that he is Jesus of Nazareth, or would we say that this guy needs to be put in a mental hospital? Or what about the Prophet Muhammad, blessed be his name? What would we say if he all of a sudden just showed up? Or what is it? I believe some Muslims believe, is it the 7th Imam or the 12th Imam? I always get them back mixed up. But, what would, Job and some of the others, what would we say in modern times if these people were to just show up? Would we say that this is, the second coming, or would we say that this person needs to be in a mental hospital? Now, before you say, David, that doesn't have much to do with anything other than, it's a nice little legend to talk about. There are people in the United States today who believe that Donald J. Trump was sent by the God of Abraham, Moses, and Jesus of Nazareth, and that he is here to fulfill a special mission. Whatever that mission was, I'm not quite sure. They always vacillate on that. So we still, in today, we believe that holy figures exist even to this day, that are here, put here on this earth to somehow guide us to some future destiny. So, as I go through, we learn about Jigsaw and his times on Babylons 1 through 5, and we learn that a Knockoline feeder has somehow got on board. I believe Dr. Franklin, when he analyzed Miriam Running Deer, kind of came to that. And sure enough, they go to Ambassador Malari, who literally hides himself in his quarters, and then commands Centauri Prime to send all the information to Dr. Franklin in the laboratory. Dr. Franklin in the laboratory does get it, and in fact confirms that there is a Knockoline feeder on board. Now, somehow these people got a hold of a Vorlon encounter suit, and this Knockoline feeder is running around masquerading as Ambassador Kosh, or at least masquerading down below. So, they go, Aldous Guides goes to interview the Minbari ambassador. Lennier does a lot of research and finds out that that they don't have the Holy Grail, but they're going to put the word forward to look for it. So if it ever comes into Minbari space or possession, Aldous Guides or his order, which we will learn later is just Aldous Guides, and later Jigsaw, Lennier makes one of the biggest, I don't want to say errors in Babylon 5 history when he says they talk about there are two castes, warrior and religion. Now, what happened to the worker caste, Lennier? There was two, and then there's going to be three. And I don't think there's ever been a satisfactory explanation about what happened to Lennier's, what happened to the worker caste. Did Lennier just forget them? Or, it seems highly, highly unlikely. But, one of the biggest boo-boos. He said, Aldous Geige asks Delenn, did they ever agree on anything? And she goes, yes, and when they do, it is a terrible power, and should never be wielded again. Well, of course, we all know the last time they agreed was when the Earth Alliance attacked a Minbari ship and killed their leader, Dukat. But it kind of goes to, as Sinclair says, one person's lunatic is another true seeker. So Aldous Geige goes around Babylon 5 interviewing the ambassadors for the Holy Grail. When he comes upon the Centauri, Veer already has done a lot of the research. You can tell Londo was hoping for a little bit of a payoff, but it seems Veer has more of a conscience and does a lot of the research. And as he's trying to give Aldous Geige this research, Londo quips to him, a few more like you and the Centauri Republic will efficiency its out of existence. And also, another mem that he says, as Aldous Geige is leaving, fools to the left of me, fools to the left of me, feeders to the right. Also heavily memmed. So, Aldous Geige sits down and talks with Jigsaw about, he used to be a number cruncher, and he was on vacation with his wife and children, and it was on Mars Colony, and he basically, in a tragic accident, he wound up living, and his wife and his children were all killed. And so he ended up meeting a guy who was looking for the Grail, and the numbers made sense again, sort of like the governor of The Walking Dead. And unfortunately, we're going to have a lot more of them with the pandemic. Okay? We are sadly losing a lot of parents, and now it's switching around. One of my nurse friends and I were talking, because she actually has been a nurse for well over 50 years. She trained me on ventilators when I worked for Providence, and she's like, David, now it's going to we're going to have lots of childrenless parents, because a lot of kids are now dying because they can't take the vaccine, at least not that we know of, and there's a whole group of parents who refuse to get vaccinated, and they're bringing it home, and now their children are dying. So unfortunately, we might be having more Aldous Geiges wandering around our streets here soon. The Ombudsman is kidnapped by Deuce's men. At the same time, Jigsaw freaks out over meeting the real Ambassador Kosh. Aldous Geige is like, sorry, Ambassador, we'll have to see you again, because his buddies just run off for no explanation. He kind of explains the situation as he runs down below. Aldous Geige ends up getting beaten up by Jigsaw's men, or Deuce's men, and so they end up. Jigsaw runs into Commander Sinclair, who drags him on down to where Aldous Geige is being held. Aldous Geige ends up getting killed. The Nakaline feeder ends up getting killed, and Ambassador Kosh's encounter suit is recovered. I'm kind of panning over the last, say, 15 or 20 minutes, because it's really, I gotta say, my least favorite episode. Comment below if you actually like it, because I'd be interested to see what your reasonings are. It's just, for me, it's kind of like, yeah, I know, it's one man's, crazy man is another person's holy man kind of thing. But as Commander Sinclair, as we're winding down, Commander Sinclair goes to debrief Ambassador Kosh over finding an encounter suit. And Kosh queries why, and he says, nobody knows exactly what you look like, and that makes some people a little bit nervous. And Kosh says, good. And that word, good, I'm going to let you know, is heavily memmed in the B5 chat rooms. Jinxo ends up leaving, taking over for Aldous Geige. He leaves Babylon5 as soon as his ship goes through the jump gate. There's no boom. Babylon5 is fine. And Ivanova says, no boom today, but there's always a boom tomorrow. And so the others kind of walk off and like, ugh, really? And she's like, look, someone has to have some damn perspective around here. Again, heavily memmed, and we close out the episode. Anyways, I'd be interested to get people's reaction of what would happen if Jesus of Nazareth or the Prophet Muhammad or Siddhartha Gautama or whomever your holiest of holy figures, if they were to just magically show up, what do you think the reaction would be? And explain what it would be down below. Anyways, as I always like to say, like, comment, subscribe, and share. Hope you all have a good rest of your day.